Good morning. Welcome to Sunday. See who trickles in this morning. Today we're going to talk about compassion. First, I want to mention that several people have reached out to me over the past week to see if and make sure that I was okay after the hurricane. And I'm fine. The hurricane came ashore about 185 miles south of here. So we got a lot of rain, but no flooding where I am, and the lights stayed on, so I'm good. But sending meta to the people down south, and the people across the state who've been impacted by this. So compassion. Well, first let me say, this past several days, I took in a 5-part series of talks on compassion. I was really moved. So I thought I would offer some reflections on that this morning. And compassion is about how we relate to suffering, pain, grief that we witness, and our own. So I'd like to explore how we can turn towards suffering and grief in a way that heals ourselves, heals the world around us. It can be something as simple as, I see you. It doesn't have to be complicated. So we'll get to that after the meditation. But let's start with finding an upright meditation posture. And upright being metaphorical, sitting in a way that's right for you, where your heart and your mind can be upright and present. And let's just start by lowering our gaze, like down the bridge of our nose, to relax the muscles around our eyes. And gently close your eyes. I'd like you to notice the sensation of your feet touching the floor, or your legs touching the floor. Just invite you to be with and notice what it feels like to be in this space at this moment. Noticing the sensations of your hands resting in your lap. Noticing the sensations of your bottom in the seat. Just being aware of how it feels to be in this body, sitting right now. I'd like to invite you to take a few slow, deep breaths. Just to get connected, feel connected to the body. Noticing the sensations of the body breathing in. Slow, deep breaths, about 3/4. Slow, long exhale. And as you exhale, let's begin the process of relaxing and softening. Relaxing the muscles around your eyes, letting your eyes just sort of rest in their sockets. Relaxing the muscles in your face. They do a lot of work. And letting your breathing return to normal. And continuing on the out breath to relax whatever tension you may become aware of in your shoulders to whatever degree you can. There's nothing to get hung up on here. Just perceiving the in-breath and letting the body relax and let go on the out breath. And now let your attention come to your breathing. Just being aware of the sensations of the body breathing in and out. And bring your attention and your focus just to rest on the breathing. Just riding the rhythm of the breath in and out. And then keeping your focus resting on the sensations of the body breathing. Some people do this by focusing on the sensations of the air moving in and out of the nose. Some people do this focusing on the chest or the belly moving up and down. Or focus on the overall global experience of the body breathing. Whatever works. Whatever's easy. When your mind wanders, I've often thought, it's all good. The mind does that. It's supposed to do that. This is a gentleness practice. When you notice that you've been thinking, either right away after some period, say all good. And begin again, returning your focus to the sensations of the breath. And I'd like to invite you into a compassion practice in this meditation. If that works for you. I'd like to invite you to bring to mind someone you love who's experiencing difficulties, large or small. And let your heart open to that person, to touch them with kindness and the desire for their suffering to be relieved. To let this lovable being bathe in your warmth and desire for them to be well. And if it helps, you can repeat these phrases or whatever phrases work for you with this lovable being. May you be free from suffering. May you know peace. May you be free from suffering. May you know peace. And I'd like to invite you to expand the circle a little bit. Maybe to people in your household or to people that you know. For whom the waters may be a little rough right now. Just offer the warmth of your heart to those people. Offer your love and caring. And maybe repeat, may you be free from suffering. May you know peace. And maybe expand the circle out to your community, your town. Maybe the people in southern Florida or Ukraine or South Carolina. Any place you know where there is suffering. And offer your warmth and your caring. Maybe offer, may you be free from suffering. May you know peace. And just as important, I'd like you to be aware of whatever you're suffering with or struggling with or having difficulty with. And say, may I be suffering. May I be free from suffering. May I know peace. And let your warmth and care and compassion flow through you to you. And from there out into the world. And maybe offer your warmth, your caring, your compassion to all beings everywhere. May all beings be free from suffering. May all beings know peace. And as we come towards the end of this sitting, I invite you to turn your heart towards the world around you, towards perhaps the small and the immense suffering in our world, the grief in our hearts, our unhealed wounds, the external trauma of people in Southwest Florida or Ukraine or your neighborhood. What is it like to open up to it without resistance, as if there is a deep place inside, a place of wisdom, care, compassion, that's worth being present for? A space where we can be aware and present for the suffering around us, but not overwhelmed. Where the feelings that emerge from witnessing suffering can come and go without resistance and without fear. And as we end this sitting, turn our thoughts to how wonderful the end of suffering would be and how we can contribute to that by looking past our own resistance. As if others, knowing that we have this wish for the end of suffering, could benefit from knowing that there are good people who care and are concerned about suffering and the end of suffering, as if that itself is medicine for the world. And maybe consider how you might act with compassion today. Small acts of compassion and care you can offer to those locally and far away. Because compassion grows as we act on it. May the benefits of this practice be of benefit to all beings everywhere. May all beings be happy. May all beings be well. May all beings be safe. May all beings be at ease and at peace. Thank you for your practice. I'd like to start off with just a couple things. One, there's the usual information in the chat, how to get in touch with me, how to find these sessions, information on my website, etc. And also, I will be leading the meditation group tomorrow night at 7:30 Eastern Time for Laura Cannon's Soul Community Kitchen. She's kind of in transition at the moment and isn't available to do that. She's fine, but she's not available and asked me to fill in. So I'm happy to do that. And also, as I said at the beginning, I just want to express my gratitude and love for all the people who reached out to me this past week because we had a hurricane. And the hurricane came ashore about 180 miles south of where I am. And my house is about 4 miles from and across the highway from the ocean. So lots of wind and rain, but I was not in an evacuation area. I was not really, my place was not really affected by that, but there are people around here who are, and my heart goes out to them. So As I said before, I recently took in a 5-part series of talks on compassion and was very moved. Compassion is a core principle of Buddhism and the Dharma. It's one of the Brahma Viharas, or the 4 noble states, which include compassion, loving kindness, empathy, and equanimity. It's part of the Eightfold Path. It's one of the 7 factors of awakening. It's a core principle. And compassion is one of the great ideals to live up to. What I'm going to talk about today is how we meet that and how we meet our resistance. Because compassion basically suggests we turn towards suffering with a desire to see it end. But sometimes it's more useful to focus not on the ideal, but what gets in the way of the ideal, our responses. And if we try to live this ideal of compassion while there's something blocking it, we don't really understand. It's a block to understanding ourselves and what our motivations might be. And it runs the risk of kind of lapsing into what I consider the near enemy of compassion, which is codependence. Because compassion starts with compassion for ourselves and being able to take care of ourselves in the face of suffering. So when we deal kindly and gently with whatever is blocking our compassion, we may find a deeper kindness or gentleness that wants to emerge towards ourselves and to others. So in that sense, it's an opportunity for healing. It's about how we are present in the presence of suffering. I've talked in this group before about the fact that I grew up in a kind of a violent and chaotic home. There was a lot of addiction and mental illness, and my first awakening getting clean and sober, was to rage and anger. And that's okay. It's where I needed to go at the time. But somewhere along the line in the path, I also discovered, was sort of pushed into discovering compassion. And when I became aware of the suffering that created that suffering, compassion turned out to be one of the great healing forces of my life. It soothed my own anger and rage, helped to heal the trauma. So compassion is a healing force. And it's multifaceted. So today we're going to talk about how we touch that.
This guy's doing this presentation and only 5 people are in it. Or he's only talking to 5 people.
Hang on one second. I'm going to ask Jay to mute herself since I don't see my access to that control.
I'll tell you about
That's what happened to him when he went out to Harrisburg.
it's about he didn't see it out.
Okay, there we go. Do we meet, recentering, do we meet compassion with fear? Do we meet suffering with fear? Revulsion, I mean, that's the knee-jerk reaction. We all have that. When we witness suffering in the world, how do we meet that? Do we meet that with, oh no, not that? Or do we accept it as part of the human condition, as part of our condition? And having no resistance to suffering, getting over our resistance to suffering, does not mean we shouldn't have strong feelings about the suffering and the injustices that we witness in the world. But it means accepting and embracing our experience of witnessing and feeling that. And knowing that we are okay, even if we are experiencing something that's hard to witness. And one of the fruits of meditation practice is learning to see that our own resistance, our own contraction in the face of suffering, is itself a form of suffering. So learning to know that we are okay in the midst of grief and suffering is one of the great gifts of this practice. Because as I've often talked about, our experience is broken up into what happens and what we tell ourselves about what happens. And what happens kind of happens, and what we tell ourselves about what happens, there's choices. So when we are experiencing the suffering of the world or our own suffering, we can tell ourselves, I'm okay, I'm just witnessing something difficult. And learning to know that we're okay in the midst of grief and suffering is one of the great gifts of mindfulness practice. And it's a practice to be cultivated. I wish I could tell you there was a switch on the back of your head, and there you'd be, right? Instant equanimity, the equanimity pill, whoop, plop, plop, fizz, fizz, dink. But we're not wired that way. And I have discovered that meditation practice helps me cultivate more space around my own grief and trauma without rejecting it and without reacting to it. And therefore, what I witness in the world doesn't scare me so much. I mean, it's scary, but I'm not afraid of myself in that. And I'll tell you, I was a psychotherapist for 25 years, in private practice most of that time. It's a great gift to be able to bring compassion that way. And any therapist will tell you, speaking of blocks to compassion, any therapist will tell you whatever your issue is that you are avoiding and don't want to look at will come directly to your office and sit on the couch right in front of you. And will language it in the same way you hear it in your head. And then you have to deal with your stuff. Because therapists who don't deal with their own stuff, it gets muddied in with the client stuff, the therapist. It's not that effective. So it's a continuous healing process. And one way this showed up for me, really early on, my first experience as a counselor before I was licensed was not too long after my father died. I was involved with a grief counseling agency, and I was still working at the newspaper. And about a year after that, my counselor contacted me and said, it's all volunteers. We're doing a training. I think this would be good for you. And the therapist I was seeing at the time, a good therapist never tells you what to do, but my therapist practically ordered me to do it. Right? So that's how that whole journey got started. And I encountered a woman who grew up in what sounded like the same family that I did. And the perpetrator in her life had died, and now she's in grief counseling with me. And at first, it scared me because I felt really triggered. And then I noticed something. I really understood this woman. And I never revealed to her my piece of that, but her experience, and she remarked on that, was that she felt like I really got it. I really understood it. I really could see her. So the healing aspect of compassion occurred in that instance for me when I realized that my experience and my trauma was actually a gift that I could bring to the world and see through that lens and witness suffering and help people heal it. And that was such a profound experience for me that I quit the newspaper and went back to school and got licensed as a therapist. And in the 12-step experience, compassion is one of the great ideals of the 12-step experience, because one of the things the newcomers here coming into Alcoholics Anonymous or Al-Anon or any of them, stick around long enough and someone will tell your story, right? With or without your permission. And that is a perfect forum for this kind of compassion, where you can take your suffering, turn it into something that heals somebody else. And that's the nature of compassion. Meeting suffering with a kind of warmth and caring that heals. So sometimes, as I've said, there's something blocking this, and we don't really understand ourselves so well until we know what that might be. And that's an opportunity for self-compassion. When we deal kindly and gently with ourselves. And I have found that as I focus on compassion practice, as I focus on loving kindness practice in meditation, one of the things that I have noticed is I'm just kinder to myself in the dialogue in my head. We all have a running monologue. It's the radio station of the mind, as I refer to it, always on, always loud. One of the fruits of meditation is we get to have a different relationship with it. But I've learned to laugh at myself a little more. Amy Ray in the Indigo Girl is you have to laugh at yourself all the time or you will cry constantly. I've learned to just be a little more gentle when things go south and say, well, Ken, you're doing the best you can. So, the element of compassion is being in contact with suffering and caring about that and being motivated to do something. And compassion is like, it's the love child of dukkha and metta. It's the love child of dukkha, which is the truth of suffering, and metta, which is kindness. It's born out of a kind of a warm-heartedness that meets someone or ourselves having difficulty. And what blocks the cultivation of compassion? Some things like fear that we might be overwhelmed when we meet suffering. So of course we hesitate. We hesitate. We're kind of wired that way. We're hardwired to avoid suffering and difficulties. That's natural and sometimes appropriate. And it's not always the time. Maybe we're not steady enough right now to meet whatever's in front of us. That's an opportunity for self-compassion. But if we cultivate mindfulness and clarity, it just gives us the opportunity to see that knee-jerk reaction towards fear as a natural hesitation, to bring some kindness and gentleness to ourselves in that process, as an opportunity for self-compassion, to be familiar with our own suffering and other issues. There are big things that block compassion. My early experience as a counselor, I was working in a clinic for families where there had been sexual abuse. It's trial by fire. And I was assigned to a group for what they call the non-offending parents, because the principle of this place is there's a family systems issue. One person comes in, everybody comes in. And I met these parents who had become aware that a child was being molested in their home, but they couldn't act on it. And what turned out to be true in almost all of those cases was their unhealed trauma overwhelmed them at that reality, and they couldn't act. It froze them. And learning to be compassionate with themselves in the midst of all of that turned out to be the greatest gift they could give for themselves and the greatest gift they could give for their child who was wounded. And working on our own suffering increases our capacity to gain some insight into our own hesitation. It's just natural. And we can decide, we can learn to see, is this just a natural hesitation, or is this real wisdom saying now's not the time? So cultivating mindfulness to be aware of whether we're reacting or whether we're responding. Reaction is just the knee-jerk thing that happens, and a response is something that we consider. Knowing whether we are equipped to deal with the suffering that appears in front of us. And mindfulness practice helps us be aware of how we resist or how we contract, how we get involved in pushing away our own suffering. So again, it's an opportunity for gentleness. I say over and over again in almost every one of these sessions, this is a gentleness practice. The things that make being gentle with the things that make it hard to be compassionate, that mirror our own pain, that makes it harder to be compassionate with ourselves. And mindfulness practice is a practice of learning to be wise with grief and suffering over time. And the operative piece of that is over time. Right? These things take time to heal. These things take time to grow into. And as I said before, I'm recounting, and this happened to me over and over again as a therapist. My experience turned out to be a lens through which I could see the person in front of me in a way that helped them deal with it and helped me be more effective. So over time, as we practice compassion with ourselves and out in the world, we start to lose our resistance. And we're able to feel what it's like and not to struggle or be victimized or re-traumatized. There's pain and grief around us. All I have to do is drive 4 miles across the highway to the areas that got evacuated. And the people who couldn't, there were people, there's a lot of rhetoric, judgmental rhetoric about people who don't evacuate. But if you're living close to the poverty line with 2 kids and there's just enough gas in your car to get to work every day, and they say, well, you have to, drive to Jacksonville now. That's almost impossible. So let's be a little kind and gentle. Not everybody has the resources to do everything that needs to be done. So we can meet that, take a deep breath, recognize our suffering in that suffering, and meet that in a way that heals the world and heals ourselves. My friend Jeannie Dupro, who wrote one of my favorite books on this topic called The Earth House, which is around here somewhere. I just moved into this house a couple of weeks ago. It's a little chaotic. You find out early on in the book that she and her partner were building a house on the side of Sherry Hoover's Zen monastery, and her partner died. And a lot of the book is about house building and her grief. And she referred to her grief as, quote, my proper burden. The more we learn to step away or look past or step through our resistance to our suffering and to the suffering we witness, the more we can be more fully alive and present in the world. So, small steps. Be gentle with your foot if you stub your toe. Start there. Small acts of compassion, something as small as I see you. When I was a therapist, I thought, especially with the trauma survivors, my principal job was to be the person who saw them, to be the witness. I see you. So on this day, I invite you to be kind and gentle with yourself. And when you witness the suffering and pain and grief in the world, and you feel that tightness, recognize that that is a natural reaction. It's not something to judge. And that you're still okay. That you can meet yourself and whatever is in front of you with kindness and compassion that will heal both. So, may you be free from suffering. May you know peace. Thank you for your kind attention. Anybody have any comments, questions, criticisms?
No, just glad that you're well. Been thinking about you all during the storm.
I'm sorry, you broke up for a second.
I'm glad that you're well.
Thank you.
I lived in Tampa for some years, so I knew the area. And boy, it looked like it was like a bowling ball going to head right towards you at first.
It was actually expected to make landfall like right at Tampa, which is, just over there.
Yeah,
But it
yeah.
came short south and kind of like skipped around us, and was going to evacuate. It was going to go to my nephew's house in Jacksonville, but he ended up in the hurricane in Jacksonville. So we lucked out. There's a great deal of suffering around on the other side of the highway in the lower lands. But thank you, and I got your message. Appreciated it.
Good, good. It was shocking to see, and then even South Carolina to see a tsunami, a tidal surge at Myrtle Beach, going underwater.
Yeah.
It's really serious. I have a friend that's in Colorado, and she said every insurance adjuster from Colorado is being sent to Florida.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, I'm glad you're doing well too, Ken. My mom's in Fort Myers, Florida, but she's in a brand new condo complex. So they built it to withstand hurricane force winds and rains, and
Yeah.
she said she's doing okay.
Glad she's okay. Glad you're okay.
Thanks.
I was struck by the number of people who reached out to me, some of whom I hadn't heard from in years. There's a big compassionate community and universe out there.
Oh yeah. We're praying for everyone down in Florida and thinking of all of you.
Yeah, appreciate that. We're coming up on 10 o'clock, so for those of you who want to tune in tomorrow night, Laura Cannon's group, the information's in the chat, and look forward to seeing you all again.
Okay. Take care.
Take care.